Battle of Granicus, the day Alexander the Great nearly lost his life. Between May and June 334 BC, an extremely crucial battle for the expansion of the Macedonian Empire took place. Alexander the Great knew that if he wanted to further increase the territorial power of Macedonia, it was extremely important to break through Asia Minor, a territory that was dominated by the Persian Empire. Background: Alexander the Great had inherited much more than just a crown. He was in charge of carrying out the promising plans of conquest that Philip II, his father, had outlined. Macedonia had for many years been a minor colony of Greece, but Philip II reversed that to such an extent that Macedonia went from being a minor state constantly fighting for sovereignty to being a power. Unfortunately for them, Philip II died in the middle of the first Macedonian expedition to Asia Minor, so Alexander the Great, his son, had to put an end to a rebellion that had occurred in the Balkans, as they tried to take advantage of the instability in the kingdom. The same thing was happening in the Achaemenid Empire, since Darius III had to deal with uprisings that had arisen in several satrapies for exactly the same reason that the subversives in the Balkans organised the rebellion. The satrapy that caused Darius the most headaches was Egypt, as they sought independence. Deployment of forces. Once both emperors had put those matters in order, they were able to concentrate their efforts on the coming war. The squabbles Alexander the Great had to attend to in the Balkans gave Darius III the time he needed to reorganise militarily, but Alexander knew he couldn't afford to waste any more time, so he quickly reorganised his army and marched into Asia Minor, with the desire to continue his father's plan, attack the Achaemenid Empire. The Persian satraps were quick to tell Darius what they saw the Macedonian army invading their territory, but Darius did not seem to mind too much, for if Darius had really considered the Macedonians a threat, he would have sent a large army and a high-ranking general to coordinate the defence. Instead, he decided to let the satraps handle the matter as they saw fit, arguing that the numerical difference between Persians and Macedonians was abysmal. Persian strategy. Unfortunately for them, this meant a mistake in the unity of command, for in the multitude of opinions and ideas, the defence was not at all successful. Memnon of Rhodes, a shrewd Persian strategist, was a staunch advocate of the idea that the best way to win this battle was to burn the fields to ashes and prevent the Macedonian men from getting supplies. But the other members of the War Council were of the complete opposite opinion, so they chose to attack the Macedonians head-on, because they were not willing to completely burn their crops and buildings, even though this strategy seemed to be extremely effective in an invasion like this. Moreover, the morale of the Persians was sky high, and they did not believe that their army, which was the most fearsome of the time, would be defeated fighting in their own lands. Even King Darius himself believed this, so, after reaching a council of war, the Persian army formed up on the banks of the Granicus River to wait for the Macedonians, since this natural obstacle seemed to be perfect to prevent the invaders from crossing. Macedonian strategy. Knowing that the numbers were not in his favour, Alexander decided that it would be best to try to completely define the course of the war with a single battle, and that whatever that battle was, he should strike so hard that the Persians could not get up after falling. His scouts informed him that the Persians had already formed their ranks at the Granicus River, and that most of the army were like cavalrymen, so Alexander decided to march to the spot at once, even though he had already been warned of the difficulties of the terrain. Upon arrival, he briefly argued with his generals, since they intended to cross the river at night, all in order to assault the Persians while they were resting. But Alexander managed to motivate his men to attack head-on and without fear. Forces. The Macedonian army was composed mainly of heavy and light infantry forces. The heavy infantry numbered about 12,000 men, most of them belonging to the famous Pesateroi, and a smaller number belonging to the Hippapists. On the other hand, the light infantry counted 1,000 troops, being most of them archers, although in this battle already appeared the famous Agrianos, who were skirmishers specialised in the use of javelins. In addition, there were approximately 4,600 heavy and light cavalrymen at the front. Meanwhile, defining the exact number of Persian soldiers is very difficult, since the historians of the time focused on making Alexander's feat seem incomparably epic, so they considerably exaggerated their account to such an extent that some claim that there were more than 600,000 soldiers in the battle, something absurd even for modern times. The most reliable source is that of Arrian, so it is usually believed that the Persian forces, between cavalry and infantry, totaled more than 20,000 soldiers. Battle. As expected, in the prelude to the battle, the cavalry would be useless, since it could not fulfill its function if a river separated them. So, after dismounting from the horses, the cavalry soldiers became infantrymen. However, the Persian alignment was so bad that the Macedonians had just enough time to get the cavalry across the river, so the whole thing quickly turned into a massacre. The Macedonians outflanked the Persians and began to attack each of the fronts, forcing the Persians to retreat and taking many prisoners, although they did not spare the Greek mercenaries who fought for the Persian army in exchange for money. Result. The Battle of Granicus is mainly remembered as Alexander nearly lost his life, but it is also considered by many to be the beginning of his epic military history, as it made the superpower of the day realise that Macedonia was not to be underestimated. As an immediate result, Macedonia not only gained an extremely valuable beachhead for future expeditions, but also managed to liberate some Greek colonies and seized a large booty. The myth of Alexander the Great did not stop growing from that moment, since sometime later he would be in charge of putting an end to the powerful Achaemenid Empire, although he himself was a great admirer of the mythical Cyrus, who founded that empire. Don't close the video yet! Before you go, please subscribe and leave us a like if you like the content. It will help us to grow and continue making much more content. Now, without further ado, we say goodbye.